All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another video. Today, this is a video I've made a video on in the past, but I'm remaking it because I think I can, word it out a little bit better, and I'm just going to remake it. You guys don't even have access to the old video anymore, so it's not like you could watch it if you wanted to. But we're gonna remake it and add a few more new points to it that I like that I want to add into this one. And hopefully it'll turn out better than the first time I made the video, and we'll see how it goes. So this video is about why suffering exists and why a lot of people are actually addicted to it. Why you might be addicted to it and you might not even know, right? So very interesting discussion we have today, and it can definitely be something that you might learn a lot from, and it might change your perspective on suffering and your circumstances if you let it. So before we get into the video, just want to let you guys know, if you are looking to coach with me, it's available to you. Links are everywhere. You should be able to find them. It'll be in the description. It'll be on the YouTube channel, TikTok, anywhere you're looking for it, you'll find it. So if you want to work with me, it's available. So let's start off with what is suffering, right? Why does it even exist, right? Now, remember, suffering does not exist because something in your life is missing, okay? Suffering only exists because it is a form of misidentification, okay? It's not that you're actually lacking anything. It is that you are identifying with lack, okay? That's a very simple explanation as to why suffering exists, right? Very simply put, it is the byproduct of misidentification. It is the alignment with a false identity, okay? This is really what it is. It's that simple, right? So let's dig a little bit deeper into that, right? So why does it exist? What actually is it, right? On a deeper level, okay? On the level of being, nothing is lost. There's nothing missing. Everything is you. You are everything, good and bad, right? You are all there is. You are the one who decides who you are. You are everything, but you are just making a decision, right? So, suffering comes from when you are forgetting the oneness that you are, okay? When I speak about manifestation, you will hear me say that you are God, that you are source, that you are infinite intelligence, you are all these things, right? You are God in human form. Understand that you are source. So, when you forget that you are source, when you forget what you are capable of as God in this human body, you start to identify with a lack of something in your life, right? So, like I said, suffering comes from forgetting the oneness that you are, right? It's when you start to identify with the separation in your life, okay? So, it's not really about reality. It's not really about what's going on outside of you, because I'll get to this later, but you're not really ever suffering in the present moment, right? You're never really suffering in the present moment. There's nothing happening to you, right, that is causing you suffering, right? Right now, you're sitting here watching this video. You're not really suffering. You're just watching this video. You're being here, right? So it's not about what's happening in reality in the 3D or whatever is happening, but it's just who you think you are, right? It's about who you think you are. You're suffering because you're misidentifying, right? Again, all of this goes back to misidentification. Suffering is just misidentification. So get that hammered into your mind. Understand that, okay? So let's talk about the time illusion, or the greater illusion of suffering as a whole. And this is a pretty important point, because you are never suffering in the present moment, right? You are never really suffering right now. Like I mentioned before, you are not suffering right now, okay? Suffering generally exists in a past memory, okay? Or something you're anticipating in the future. So it's either you're lingering and remembering something that happened to you already in the past, or you're anticipating a outcome in the future, okay? Generally, I mean, probably all the time, if it's causing you suffering, it's a outcome that you'd rather not want, okay? So right now in this present moment, there is no problem. There's nothing to worry about, right? But it comes up. A problem comes up in your mind, and then you start to identify with it. Then that lack becomes real to you, okay? Now, suffering, this is pretty important too, okay? Suffering is not just an identity, right? It is an emotion. I mean, it is an emotion, don't get me wrong, but it is also a state of being. It is a state of being, okay? It forms when your desire is seen as something that is outside of you. When you start to look in the 3D for something that you are, right? When you look in the mirror for something that you believe is not already within you, right? And you're like, where is it? I can't see it. I don't have it. How can I see it if I don't have it, right? It it's when you believe that your desire is something that can be lost, right? You believe that it has to be protected, or it's something that you have to gain, right? But remember, when you do this, you become the person who doesn't have it. You become the one who has lost the thing, or you become the one who is waiting for the thing, okay? So again, you're misidentifying. You don't have what you desire, and again, your desire is not, it's nothing, there's nothing wrong with desiring. It's a natural part of your human existence. You are here in this world as God to experience humanity, to experience life, okay? You're living through God. You are God experiencing, okay? So, are you going to be a God that doesn't have? Are you going to be a God that lives in lack, okay? Who are you going to be? So remember that, all right? Do you want to be the person that does not have something? Do you want to be the person who lost whatever it is that you're seeking? Or are you waiting for something to validate your godliness, to validate your desires? So you can have desires. Desires are a good thing, right? Don't think of having desires as something that's bad that you need to get rid of or change, right? You're allowed to have them. You have them for a reason, okay? So remember, they're all already a part of you. So something really important, my take on it, that I think is pretty unique, and I really, like to talk about this, right? Suffering is addictive. It's more addictive than any other drug ever. You know why? Because it imitates. My words are all over the place today. Okay. Suffering is addictive because it imitates love. All right? Let's dismantle that. Let's think about that. Okay? Love is the single greatest feeling that anybody could ever feel. It reminds you of what oneness is, right? My belief is that love is the closest feeling that we can get to just being one, to just being oneness, right? Love is the closest thing that is that, right? What is it? Something that every human has, every human wants, every human craves. It is love. Why is that? Because love is oneness. It's the closest thing we can experience to that. So suffering gets really addictive because it imitates love. It becomes a pseudo state of love, right? So what it does, it tries to create love in your life. It tries to create love when it feels inaccessible to you. So then your mind, which doesn't really know how to transcribe the oneness of everything, the love that is oneness, what does it do? Your ego doesn't know that, right? Your ego is just the persona. It cannot understand divinity, right? So it tries to create love based off its egoic beliefs, off memories and emotions and all these things, okay? So what does suffering provide that feels so similar to love, that makes it so addictive, right? What about suffering becomes addictive, right? The intensity of what it makes you feel. It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel present, right? Identity. It gives you a sense of being. It gives you a sense of self. The same way that love does, suffering does the same. It gives you meaning, right? Or maybe even lack thereof meaning becomes meaning to you, right? It makes things feel purposeful in a way that love does as well, right? And continuity, right? It provides a false sense of stability, right? It does all of the things that love does, but it does it in this monkey's paws corrupted way, okay? So the mind tends to prefer the meaningful pain over just an emptiness, right? Emptiness of just being. It would rather experience something else because the mind does not like to just be empty. It doesn't like to just be, because the ego can only ever know to be a persona. It can never just be, right? This is why we practice mindfulness. This is why we meditate, right? So that we can cultivate a greater sense of being, of just being present, not truly just being in your ego all the time. So it prefers meaning, even if that meaning is pain and suffering, over just emptiness and being, right? This is why it becomes so addictive, because it feels like something. It feels when you have nothing else to feel, right? It gives you a purpose and all these things that you just don't have when, you're in the thick of it, right? So it gives you a sense of false belonging because through suffering, you belong through victimhood, right? You identify with being a victim. That becomes your core identity. Everything then will stem from that, okay? It gives you something to hold on to. It gives you a story, a purpose, a reason, a belief, a knowing to hold on to, right? It holds your hand. It guides you through life, but in the worst way you could possibly allow it to. Okay? So you're not just feeling the pain, you're being someone in pain. You are becoming pain itself, right? Identification feels like purpose, which is why we want to identify with anything in the first place. And then the pain and the suffering feels like love. It's the closest thing you can create to that oneness that the mind can come up with, which is, again, like I said, why it becomes so addictive, right? So you're not just feeling the pain, you're actually becoming it, right? So now we got to talk about this identification trap, right? So the addiction is not necessarily just to the pain, but it's you're addicted to identifying with pain. So again, like I mentioned with victim mentality, what do you do? If you've ever known somebody in your life who always has been a victim, maybe this has been you in your life. I can name so many people who live their life like this that I know in my life right now. Okay. People who they just can't not identify with being a victim. They just look at all of their circumstances and then they don't even allow themselves to believe in anything better because they genuinely love to be a victim, because it gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you validation. It gives you all these things that you want through love, right? So it can be very addictive. It is very addictive, right? And another thing you got to remember with this, right, is that if you know somebody like this, like using the same example, if you know somebody in your life who is a victim, and again, and maybe if this is yourself, I might be fucking calling you out right now, okay? But if you're a victim, right, how do things tend to work out for you, okay? You are constantly in the knowing of your circumstances that are opposing what you want, okay? Then what? Maybe things are going well in your life, right? But then you, because you're the identity that suffers, will then find a way to self-sabotage everything that is good in your life because you are used to having nothing good in your life. So then you will take the natural actions to then get rid of anything good in your life. It will just never be in your grasp. Why is that? Because you're identifying with a victim. I've seen it time and time and again with so many people in my life. So be conscious of that. If you're being somebody who's identifying with victim mentality, don't be surprised when you lose the things that you want, even if they're in your life, because you have no choice but to act through your identity. The natural actions you will take are the ones that you are identifying with, right? Every action you take is natural, okay? For the most part, every action you take will be natural when you're acting through this identity because you have fully believed in it, all right? Because it's providing you everything that, what you believed faith couldn't, okay? So, back to the whole identification trap, right? Suffering becomes your identity because anytime you go after healing, anytime you choose to believe that you can heal, maybe you go through the motions of it, of choosing a new identity, or maybe even before you were into manifestation, maybe you went through therapy. But every time you were healing, right, it felt like a loss of identity, because your ego wants to cling to an identity. It finds safety in anything, even pain. So losing that pain is like losing yourself. And if the ego is losing its identity, then that feels like an attack. It feels like a loss, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to try stopping it. Your ego is going to come in and it's going to be, hey, we're going to keep you okay. You're safe here. You're safe being a victim. Don't leave here. What do you got to lose? Stay here, right? So it's going to try to bring you back. Peace feels uncomfortable because you're always going to be worried about when things are going to go back to normal. And for the people who identify with the victim mentality, having a normal life just means not having a good life at all, right? So you're waiting for things to be worse because peace does not feel right, doesn't feel normal, right? And ultimately letting go feels like losing yourself, right? So anytime you are trying to actively let go of something from your past, maybe letting go of a worry or a belief you held, it feels like you're letting go of yourself. You're losing who you are, your identity. Okay? So it chooses to suffer because it stays consistent. Notice that. Your ego can stay consistent to any identity that you choose to latch onto. Same thing with suffering. It will stay consistent to that. So, suffering is a false oneness, right? We've been touching on this point pretty much throughout the entirety of the video, but you have to understand that. That's exactly what it is. It is just a false sense of oneness, okay? Suffering is just a distorted attempt, a distorted recreation of oneness, like I've been mentioning throughout the video, right? It's wanting unity without actually being unity, right? Seeking connection through separation. How many people, I'm a Gen Z, okay? I can tell you at 21 years old, there are so many people that I know that their entire relationships with other people is just built through trauma bonding. You don't have any real connection with anybody. It's just falsely interpreted and made through trauma bonding. It's not even real. When the trauma's gone, then what? You don't even have a real friendship, okay? That's its own topic, really. But people are our entire generation's just bonding through suffering, right? Again, my entire generation, there's so many people that are addicted to suffering. I see it all the time, okay? So it's seeking connection through separation, where love would generally expand. It expands through you. It expands into your life and creates more love, right? Suffering will do the opposite, okay? It will bring more of that, right? Suffering contracts it. It brings the love back instead of expanding out, right? When love is remembering, suffering is just clinging. This is why you cling to certain things in your life, right? Maybe certain memories, certain feelings, certain people. You're clinging to them because that is what suffering is, right? You just can't let it go. You have to hold on to it, right? Love is remembrance. Suffering is clinging, really clinging, okay? So I've talked really a lot about what suffering is. And so how can we be mindful and also end suffering? How can we end suffering, right? So understand this. Just because you fix your circumstances or your circumstances get better, that is not how you fix suffering, right? That is just a smaller aspect of it, right? It's just a momentary fixture. It's a momentary solution, but it's not the end all be all. So how do we end it, right? It starts with disidentification. So how do we do this? So you stop being the person who lacks and you stop being the one who's waiting, right? You are awareness. You're in the present moment. Okay, that in itself will remove the foundations of suffering, because you're not in your mind all the time, okay? So, let's talk about this some more. So, disidentification. How do we do this? I talk about it all the time. Anytime your mind will bring up any sort of memory, thought, feeling, right? Particularly in this point that is related to suffering, you are simply just going to do this. Okay? No, I am not this I'm not this, I am this way instead. Okay? I have this instead. I am this way instead. Okay? So what are you doing? Your mind is bringing something up into your awareness because you're claiming a new identity, right? Your mind is bringing up something in your awareness. Okay, so what do we do with this, right? This may be a belief you held in the past, intrusive thought, memory. What do we do with this? How do we interpret this? You now make a decision on what that is. Okay? So, if it was a memory in the past, you can choose to just give it a new meaning. How do we do this? Maybe something bad happened to you in your past. You were done wrong, betrayed, whatever it is, right? So what do we do? First understand why that even happened. Because that betrayal happened, and this might hurt to say, hurt to hear, but it happened because it was a byproduct of your identity. It was who you were being, and so it had to unfold for you that way because that's what you were entertaining, right? But you're not that person anymore. So what do? We acknowledge why, we acknowledge why things happened the way they did in the past, but then we understand that was then, this is now. I'm not who I was then. This is who I am now. So you tell your mind, right? You're giving it the direction and the order that, hey, I used to be this identity. I'm not this identity anymore. I choose to be this way instead. I used to act this way. I act like this now. I used to have this thing, but actually, no, now I have this, right? So you are countering your identification with your new. You're telling your mind what you have now. You're telling your mind who you're being. So as you start to do this, and this will happen naturally, right? As your mind starts to bring things into your awareness, you don't have to look for triggers. Let them be presented to you. Don't look for a problem, because if you keep looking for one, it'll find you. But what you should be doing is just letting things naturally pop into your awareness as you move throughout your day. Okay? Let the triggers come. They're not bad. They aren't hurting you. They're not bad for you. It's just things you need to make a decision on. You address the situation, you adjust the trigger, and you move on. This is how we stop, because you're no longer identifying with it. So then the more that these things get presented into your mind, the less you're clinging to it, and the less that you are identifying with it, and the less you stop becoming it. So even when something that used to get you riled up shows up in your mind, you don't care anymore. The grip is gone. So you don't care to worry about it. You don't care to effort over it. You don't care to cling on to it. You just are just not really aware of that anymore, right? And so this is what happens when you naturally stop identifying. The power is stripped away. So then you're no longer worried about what happened in the past. You're not worried about what's going to happen in the future. You're good right here, right now in the present moment. You're good. Even if everything isn't showing up the exact way you want it to, it doesn't matter, because you are internally good. You know it is inevitable because you have it. It is your identity to have the thing that you know you have. And so things will naturally play out. You're here in the present moment. Enjoy what's in front of you, right? Enjoy your time here and let the universe take care of the rest, right? So this is how you stop being somebody who's lacking. This is how you stop being somebody who's waiting. A lot of you guys are forcing yourselves to wait because you're looking for validation for something that is already true within you, okay? You already know it's true within you, yet you're still waiting. For what, right? You're waiting for a reason to believe. But you have to understand there's a difference in knowing and difference in believing. This is a video I'm going to make another video on. This is a topic I'm going to make another video on. So stay tuned for that. That should be coming out maybe next week. But yeah, so you have to stop waiting for validation and know that you have it now, right? Give it to yourself by claiming it. You don't even have to visualize anything or anything like that. You can just claim it and move on. Even if it doesn't feel like you have the validation, even if it doesn't look like it, you claim it, move on. Okay? Be present in the moment. A lot of the times people make it a lot harder than it has to be. Being present is just doing anything, right? Immerse yourself in your life. Find a hobby. Do whatever. Do something for yourself. See yourself as a prize. As you do that, you tend to care less about the 3D. You'll become more present. Okay? So, how do we end off the video, right? Love isn't something that's being created or used to fight suffering. It just is replacing suffering because you're getting the real version. You're becoming the real version of what you truly are, right? There's no fight. It's just an identification. It's a choice you're making, right? Because love isn't something that you find. It's already you, right? So it's awareness, right? It is who you are. It's what shows up when you stop identifying with separation. When you stop identifying with separation, the love can find you. The clarity comes because it is you. So that's really all I have for you guys, right? Separation and suffering. It seems like this huge, big thing that we got to tackle, but it's really not that difficult. It's really not that hard of a concept to grasp, as you might have seen through the video. It's just a simple recognition of what it is, and then you learn to disidentify with it. So if that is something that you enjoyed, if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right?